Thank you for joining, and I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Grace to just give us a little update on impact and where we're going from here.
Okay, hold on, let me hit the go live button. Hold on, I can't we're almost there.
Me?
Hold on, we're close. There we go.
Oh, and Sarah Grace, will you give me will you make me a co-host now?
Yes, absolutely, I will. Okay, hello, thank you all for coming and being with us today. I'm Sarah Grace, I'm our current president of Impact 100, and I just want to share with you a little bit about who we are, which I think some of you know and some of you may not know, and some of you may know some things and not all things. So our mission at Impact 100 is to empower women to dramatically improve lives by collectively funding significant grants that make a lasting impact in our community. And the way that we do that is that women join at either a $500 or $1,000 level, and then all of those monies are pooled together to make grants of at least $100,000. And then at the end of the year, we ask our local nonprofit community to submit a grant application into one of our 5 focus areas, which are family, health and wellness, education, culture, and then environment, recreation, and preservation. So then our members come together to review the grant applications, perform financial analysis, site visits, and then ultimately select our grant finalists. And then in September, at our annual award celebration, the finalists present their transformational project request, and our members vote live for the grant recipients at that meeting. And then we partner fairly long-term in the grant-making world with our recipients between 1 and 3 years to make sure that their transformational project gets off the ground. Since our inception in 2001, we've awarded over $5 million to local nonprofits for a total of 47 transformational projects, which is pretty impressive. We are now a international movement. Impact 100 is, but it was founded right here in Cincinnati, and now there are over 50 chapters worldwide, which is really exciting. I like to always end my little spiel with what I think makes Impact 100 special and why I'm so committed to it. The first is that 100% of our member dollars go to the grant pool. So when you become a member, know that your money is going directly back into the community, all of it. 2, it's a build your own adventure community, right? So you can be as involved or uninvolved as you'd like to be. You can write your check and know that the other members are engaged in making sure that we're being great stewards of your money, or you could be president. It's wide range of activity you could do. Actually, I have a 4th one. But we have an all volunteer working board. So we have no paid staff. We have a part-time admin who is amazing. She's outsourced. But other than that, it's our 24-person board and all of our committees. And we just make it run. And I think that's just amazing. And then lastly, what I think makes Impact 100 special is our membership. So we have 541 members this year. They span from the age of, I think, 17 to 90 plus. They come from all different zip codes, all walks of life. And it's just a very special organization to be a part of. And because we have 0 operating dollars every year, since all of our member dollars go to the grant pool, we have sponsors. And I want to take a second to really thank them. We couldn't do any of this work without them. And hopefully they're up on your screen. So take a moment and give these guys a look-see, and we'd be really honored if you found it in your heart to be generous with them as well, because they're generous with us. So with that, I am done with my spiel, and we get to actually do the fun stuff, which is talk to Greg Sargent, who is the Housing and Construction Coordinator for SELF. So Greg, take it away.
All right, thank you. It's good to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity. And I do want to start out by saying thank you to Impact 100 for the grant that we received back in 2015. Some of you were around back then, but we received a grant to help launch our Build Up Academy, which is a construction job skills training program that I'll tell you more about. But that was a huge shot in the arm that we had planned to offer the class once a year. We immediately were able to offer it twice a year because of that grant. And so I'll tell you more about that. Let me start by telling you some about SELF. SELF is a nice, concise acronym for a rather clunky named organization. Our clunky name is Supports to Encourage Low-Income Families, and that's a mouthful, so SELF is a lot easier to say. We are a community action agency. Most counties across the country have a designated community action agency, so we're a particular type of nonprofit through which various types of funding flows, some designated block grant funding and that type of thing. So we, our mission for SELF, we exist to enhance the quality of life for county residents, and again, we're in Butler County, by impacting the causes of poverty and empowering individuals to achieve, sustain, and advocate self-sufficiency. So we're all about low-income people and moving them to or towards, anyway, self-sufficiency. So we have 10 programs through which we accomplish that. And rather than listing the 10 of those, I think we'll go to the video, if that's okay with you, Sarah Grace, and this will give you a good overview of what SELF is all about.
There are a lot of people who are considered the working poor who don't think that they can obtain assets.
Nobody ever says, I want to grow up and struggle every day of my life.
They get behind.
Can you guys hear audio? Because I'm not hearing.
It's just stopped.
Well, but could you hear audio when it was playing?
Yes, I could.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Okay.
Behind in their utility bill, different circumstances with different families.
I had no water, no electric or anything, and it was the middle of winter. And I brought myself out of this hole because of SELF taking me out of it and being there, my support.
Because SELF has a lot of different supportive services that make it easy for people to get to those goals that they want to choose to.
SELF helps hardworking families to obtain employment, to retain that employment, to build assets for financial security, and to help them learn skills so that they can become self-sufficient and escape poverty permanently.
We have Jobs Now. We have Getting Ahead program. We have IDA. If they save $1, we contribute $2, where a person can buy a home or secondary education. The micro enterprise program, they can actually start their own business. SELF is about a person. We're trying to help them become more rounded.
I started out with 2 vehicles, and we have 14 vehicles now. The classes taught me about taxes, how to register your name.
It helped me figure out how to write my business plan. It helped me figure out how to get the money for the business.
The main idea is to help them get better employment or be able to acquire a home so they can raise their families, and to help them realize that these things are obtainable.
It was a challenge, but I made it through, and I'm reaping the rewards of a house payment that's cheaper than my rent, and it's very much of a blessing.
Our program is basically designed to help people who want to stay in their homes stay in their homes.
I'm graduating the Build Up Academy. We have a house on 3rd Street that we're actually rebuilding and remodeling, so I learned a lot of techniques on how to do some plumbing. And
You know, looking at my life like, wow, this so fits my past experiences. It gives them an opportunity to try again.
So that I think tells the story much better than I could, because you actually get to see some of our clients and some of our staff there, and the variety of programs that we offer. Just a little bit about my background. I've been with SELF since 2014. And I actually came on to help start the Build Up Academy program that I'm going to tell you more about. Many years prior to that, I had my dream job. I was a park ranger at the Grand Canyon. That's what I always wanted to do as a kid, was be a park ranger. I got an opportunity to do that. Had just gotten married, so my wife and I had a long 2-year honeymoon on the rim of the Grand Canyon working there. It was wonderful. But God called us into ministry, and we went into ministry at that point and moved around the West some, eventually ended up in Ohio, working for a Christian organization. And then I went to work for a church and did a lot of my area of emphasis was on outreach, was on taking volunteers and doing hands-on work. And so a lot of that was construction. I didn't have any professional construction background, but I learned a lot along the way. I led 5 trips to the country of Belize, where one of the things we did was build houses down there. I ran a transitional housing program in inner city Cincinnati in the north side area. And that was all about taking blighted houses that were given to us and turning them into a usable house that we then used for transitional housing. So I love working with volunteers. I love doing hands-on work, and that just a lot of that was construction work. I'm telling you that because that's how I ended up at SELF. I actually brought a team of volunteers of teenagers from Lakota High School, Lakota East, to work with SELF one day, and actually several times. And some of the SELF staff said, "Hey, why don't you come work with us? You seem to be good at this and you like working with volunteers, so why don't you come do this?" And so we explored that, and I ended up actually had to go back to school at UC and take some classes in construction, and particularly in safety, become a OSHA instructor, so that I could do this. But it's been great. I love it. We do work with about 2,500 volunteers a year that I get to interact with, and do some marvelous work helping people with home repairs. So I love it. I'm glad I landed here. Don't see myself going anywhere else, but you never know. I thought I was going to be a park ranger forever too, and wasn't. So let me tell you about Build Up Academy, and we'll certainly leave time for questions, but feel free to interrupt as well. I may not see the chat, but raise your hand, wave at me, say something, and we'll certainly answer questions as we go. Build Up Academy, we're in the category of education in terms of the Impact 100 grants. We are a construction job skills training program. The reason we focused on construction as an area in which to provide people job skills and help them find jobs, a couple reasons. One, it's booming, has been for several years. There's a lot of jobs, entry-level jobs, the other big reason is because construction is what we call a felon-friendly industry. A lot of places you cannot get a job if you have a criminal record, particularly a felony. And construction is not that way. Construction is very tolerant of people who have a messy background, whether that's a criminal past, a drug past, or often the two go hand in hand. A lot of people have both. That's certainly been the case for our students that we've had. So construction makes sense. It's a great way to jump into the workforce. A lot of people that we're dealing with, low-income people, have been out of the workforce. Either they've been incarcerated or they've been in rehab or something like that for some time. So, and getting it back into the workforce, construction is a great place to do that. Our students, tell you some about our program. Our students get about 100 hours of classroom time learning basic construction topics. We're technically a pre-apprenticeship program. An apprenticeship in the various trades in construction lasts about 4 years. Our program lasts 9 weeks, our classes. Our students are in class 4 nights a week, 3.5 hours a night for 9 weeks. And the 9 modules or chapters or topics that we cover are safety. And from that, they receive an OSHA 10 card, which is very important. Some of you probably have an OSHA 10 card because it's not just important in construction, but in other workplaces as well. So safety, construction math, hand tools, power tools, construction drawings, basic rigging, basic communication skills, employability skills, and material handling. So those are the 9 areas in which we spend some classroom time teaching the students. That gives them a good foundation to go on to an apprenticeship program if they're so inclined, or just straight into an entry-level position in construction. I mentioned OSHA 10, the other credential that they get, and the reason we've landed on these 9 modules, is the National Center for Construction Education and Research, or NCCER, puts out a curriculum that's really internationally recognized for construction training. And so they graduate with a core credential from the NCCER. The other thing that they potentially graduate with, if they want to pursue it, is up to 6 college credit hours. We have an articulation agreement with Cincinnati State. And if they want to go on and study construction management, something like that, they can apply and be credited with up to 6 hours of credit at the college level. The other component in our class is hands-on experience. And we build in 20 to 30 hours per class of time out of the classroom working on people's houses or on houses that we own. That gives students an opportunity to really try their hand at things. It also, it helps them know, oh, yes, I like this, or no, I don't. The classroom component, maybe they're good students and they like the classroom part, but when they get out there and they actually get the tools, maybe they don't like it, or vice versa. And more frequently, they don't like the classroom part, but they do like the hands-on skills. A lot of our students did not necessarily do well in school when they were younger and when they were in school, and so they're not really academically oriented, and it's more of a struggle for them to get through, especially like the construction math. Maybe they're in their 30s, they've been out of high school for 15 years, and math is something that we all struggle with when we aren't doing it every day. So some of them have academic, struggle more with the academic side, but they love the getting out there and doing the hands-on work. I briefly mentioned houses that we own. I know that Impact 100 is very concerned with, after our grant money runs out, if you will, how are we going to sustain our programs? And our strategy has been, and it's worked quite well, is to buy or otherwise obtain houses that are blighted, that are beat up, that are unloved, and turn them back into usable housing stock that we can then sell to a low-income homeowner. It's worked better than we anticipated, really. We've been given 3 houses by the cities here in Butler County, and we've purchased 2. Again, these are pretty beat up houses, so if they offered you one, you wouldn't necessarily take it, and unless you had a workforce of volunteers who could go in there and, first of all, clean out all of the debris that's been left behind by the previous owner, or more frequently squatters who have been living in these houses for maybe years. So they're in really rough shape. I think you're getting the picture for that. But our students go in and help us, and as well as other volunteers go in and help us turn those back into a nice house. And the good news is, with the 4 houses we've sold, we've netted $100,000 or about $25,000 per house that has been able to go back in to the program. So it's been a win for us. It's a win for the cities, because they get rid of a house that is a pain in the rear for them. What are we going to do with this rundown house? We can't really sell it. Nobody wants it. All we can do is tear it down, which costs them money. And then they have to maintain a vacant lot, which costs them money. So they're happy to give it to us, and then to see it be restored and turned back into a house that's owned by somebody who then becomes a taxpayer and is contributing to the tax base. So it's a win for the cities, and it's certainly a win for the purchaser, the first-time home buyer who gets into a house. And almost always, I think, every time with the houses we've sold, they're paying less for a mortgage than they were for rent where they were living. So it's a win-win-win situation. So we have had, I was crunching some numbers here to be able to tell you fairly accurately. We've taught the class 10 times, again, twice a year. And we've had an average of 10 graduates per class because we graduated right at 100. We actually enrolled 119 over those 10, and we've had some dropouts or people who did not meet all the graduation requirements. Interestingly, 68 of the 100 graduates were women. We didn't really anticipate that, I guess, that we would have more women than men in a construction program, but we've been very happy with that outcome. The women seem to be more motivated and hardworking than in general, than the men that we've attracted to our class, and they've just been real leaders, and so it's been great. So 84% of our students who've enrolled have graduated, and most of them have gone on to, if they weren't already working when they enrolled in the class, they've gone on to get a job within typically a few weeks. Now, our goal is that they get a construction job and that moves them into a construction career. That doesn't always happen. These folks have a lot of barriers in their life. Sometimes that's, that they're still in rehab, or that they've lost their driver's license, they have no car, they have childcare to worry about, or child support that they're paying, and that might be a huge sum of money. So there's a lot of barriers that keep them from moving right into the kind of job that they would like to have. If you don't have transportation, but you can get to a bus line, you can work a manufacturing job or a warehouse job or something like that that is in the same place every day. You can't work a construction job because construction is, one day it's in Loveland, where Barb is, and then one day it's in Northern Kentucky, so you really need reliable transportation. You at least need a driver's license because your foreman is going to toss you the keys to the truck and say, go to Home Depot. And if you toss him back and say, I don't have a driver's license, well, he's going to say, what are you doing here? So transportation is a barrier that has to be overcome in order for our students to work construction. We've had one guy who's a graduate of our program and then went on to start his own business, and he's come back and he's hired at least one of our students. That student did not have a driver's license, and so he drove him, so this is the boss, drove him to and from work and everywhere he needed to be for a year until that guy was able to get his license back. So just an awesome story of it going full circle and him being able to give back. So a lot of them end up in warehouse jobs, factory jobs, things like that, until they're able to get things straightened around in their life to where they can work construction. So I did not name the program Build Up Academy, but I love the name because it has to do with building. But more importantly for me, and what I've seen through these 10 classes, is we're building up people's self-esteem. They come in, they're pretty beat up by life. And to be able to sit in class and succeed, to see that, hey, I can do this. I didn't think I could. I doubted myself, but I can do this. And to be encouraged by their fellow students, by the instructors, by the speakers who come in, that you do have value, you matter, you can get a job, you can hold a job, you can provide for your family. So that whole aspect of building up people is my favorite part. If they don't get a job in construction, I'm okay with that. But they're walking out of here, they've been built up as a person, and they're able to move on and provide for themselves and be a contributing member to society. So, any questions at this point?
Yeah, Greg.
Yes, I have one. This is Susan.
Hi, Susan.
You said that this is a pre-apprenticeship program. Mm-hmm. How do they then get into, if they want to continue in this field, how do they get into an apprenticeship program?
Yeah, an apprenticeship is a formal program where students are enrolled in classes and they're working. So they're getting paid to work during the day or during a certain season. Sometimes they have them work a season and then go to class for a season. More often it's work during the day and go to class at night. But there's two routes, union and non-union or independent. Both of those routes offer apprenticeships, and we've sent some of our students to the Carpenters Union, which happens to be not too far from us. It's in Monroe. And the process there is they apply, they take a test, which is heavy on the math, unfortunately for some of them. And then they're given a list of employers who are hiring apprentices. And they go out and present themselves to the employers, and they have to get hired. But then they're entered into the apprenticeship process. So they become an apprentice at that point. And they're given a schedule, and here's when you're going to be in class, and here's when you're going to be at work. So that's kind of how it works. It's the same on the independent side. Have
you been successful for people who want apprenticeship? Have they been able to get into one?
We have not had a lot, to tell you the truth, who have pursued that route. And again, it goes back to the barriers that they're facing because it is a pretty rigid program. I can only think of two offhand that have stuck with an apprenticeship program.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't know of any that have pursued the college route. And maybe that's just not who our students are. They're just not academically inclined and don't have the means to put life on hold while they go to school. That's hard for any of us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to just follow up on that. So you're saying that that the training that you're providing is helping them find jobs that they wouldn't have been able to have achieved, but not necessarily where you thought that they would be going when you started.
Right. Not necessarily stepping right into construction jobs or apprenticeships, but yes. But getting jobs, being able to tackle some of those barriers in their life, and then maybe get to the point where they can work construction. Construction can be quite lucrative. It pays well, but you can't have those limitations of no driver's license, no car, that kind of thing. Got to have some of those basics squared away. Okay. A little insight into where we're going from here. We have made some tweaks. Some of this was related to the pandemic. Some of it was really in place prior to that. One thing is there's a alternative high school here in our county. It's called Marshall, and they also teach the NCCER and OSHA type classes. They basically teach the same curriculum we do to high school students who are going to graduate and also graduate with those two credentials. What they lacked was any opportunity to do hands-on work. They just, they didn't have any opportunity to take the students out and work on homes. Well, we do that all year. Apart from our Built Up Academy, we repair about 100 homes a year for Butler County homeowners. And so we got together and they said, why don't you guys provide this hands-on training for our Marshall students? And it has worked really well as a partnership. We're able to use our strength, teach them the hands-on skills. Now that was just a few weeks underway when the shutdown hit. And so we weren't able to get too far with that, but it really got us thinking that maybe there's other schools that we could partner with and we can provide that hands-on opportunity. Of course, we benefit because we get free volunteer labor from students who are motivated and who are learning construction. They want to be there. So that's one thing we're going to pursue is more of those kind of partnerships where we bring our strengths and they bring, what they're doing as well on the academic side. We're also going to offer a scaled down version of Build Up Academy because the 9 weeks of 3.5 hours a night, 4 nights a week is hard for people who typically have a family, they have kids. It's just hard to be in class that many hours. And so we're going to try offering, excuse me, about a 20-hour, just kind of an overview. The students would still get their OSHA 10 card, so we'd spend half of those hours on safety because we think it's important that they come out with a credential. But they would not get the NCCER credential. It takes many more classroom hours for that. But we're thinking in light of the current environment that may be something that really meets a need and helps people still get their feet wet in construction, figure out if it's something they want to do. And then they can go on to our regular build-up class and get the full credential if they want. Or we can help connect them with employers right away who, like I said, are always hiring. They're always looking for laborers and people who want to learn the trade. So also speaking of the scaled down version, we were approached by the Juvenile Rehabilitation Center or Juvenile Detention Center here in Butler County. It's actually right here in Hamilton. And they said, can you offer something like this to our students? And we first said, well, this is how many hours it is. It's 90 to 100 classroom hours. And they were they struggled with that because they have a transient population. They are locked down, so they're not transient in the sense that they're coming and going, but they're only in there for their sentence, if you will. And so to get a cohort of students who are going to be there for 9 weeks and who can commit to a class, it was just, they're just too transient. There's too much coming and going of their population for that. And then their other concern, which might occur to you as well, is are we going to put power tools in the hands of juveniles who are in here because they got in trouble? And so there's some risk there, some things we had to think through is how are we going to make this work so we can actually train them in the skills they need to without endangering anybody. And so we're thinking this scaled down version of the class, and we're actually still in talks with the JDC to see if we can pull this off and provide a valuable class to the kids who are temporarily incarcerated. So we'll be pursuing that in the weeks ahead. There, of course, school's out. They do kind of follow an academic school year, and school's out now, and that's true for our Marshall High School students as well. So we've got until the fall to figure that out and put that in place. All right.
Great. Thank you, Greg. We have a question from the chat from Claire. Claire, do you want to ask it, or do you want me to do it?
Sure, I'm happy to. I had a comment too. So one of the things I heard you say, Greg, was just the math preparedness. And of course, my dog starts barking the second I unmuted. It's interesting because it reminds me of what Allied Construction Industries did at Woodward around 7 through 12 math attainment through construction. So I don't know if you've partnered with them at all, but they have a really amazing curriculum that they've developed to work with Woodward around construction and math skills, obviously for a much younger grade, but they've been pretty successful with that. But the question I had was around the land bank donation. Does Butler County have their own land bank? Is that how you acquire those homes? I was just curious.
Yes, Butler County does have their own land bank, and one of the homes that is currently in process of being transferred to us is from the land bank. So the previous one we got from the city of Middletown, land bank was not involved in that one as far as I know, unless it was behind the scenes somewhere.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And by the way, ACI, Allied Construction Industries, is where we are certified through to teach the NCCER curriculum. So the reason I wasn't on the last webinar 2 weeks ago is because I was in class at ACI getting recertified. So yeah, quite familiar with them. Not so familiar with what they're doing at Woodward, but I can check into that. Thank you for that.
And Greg, you mentioned before we actually got most people on the call that you have lost like 500 volunteers this summer in terms of your workforce. So like anybody who's watching this live or on this call, how can we support SELF in, achieving your mission?
Yeah, we, like I said, we use about 2,500 volunteers a year in doing our home repairs. And because we lost some large work camps this summer that were teenagers, who were coming here to be part of a camp and to do construction work, those got canceled with so many other things. So we've lost about 500 volunteers this summer. So we're looking for groups who are willing to come and commit a day. It could be as few as 4 hours. If they want to do several days, that would be great. And we'll match them up to an appropriate project in terms of the time they can commit, the age and skill level of the people who are coming. I should emphasize we're looking for groups because when individuals come to us, we have to commit too much of our staff time to figuring out how we can use an individual. And so groups are much better for us, if that makes sense.
And how would somebody who has a group that may be interested in volunteering, how would they connect with SELF?
Our website is selfhelps.org, and there's an S on the helps. So they could go there. They can email me at gsargent@selfhelps.org.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be two easy ways to reach us.
And this, Claire made a great point. So do you have your offerings on CincinnatiCares.org? I know they've become a hub for volunteer opportunities during COVID.
I don't know. That's a good question. We are posted on a Butler County site that's similar to that, but I don't know about Cincinnati one.
Okay, great.
I will check into that.
Wonderful. And I have posted your website onto our chat for anybody who wants to check in on it. And then I'm also going to put in the chat our website that goes a little more in depth as to what our funds went to with the Step Up Academy, if anybody wanted to know a little bit more than just the kind of the overview we talked about.
I was going to ask on that, Greg, you said that our grant dollars went to expanding the program to 2 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a waiting list? Do you guys hope to, get more involved, or?
A waiting list of students?
Yeah.
No, we have to get out and beat the bushes a little bit to fill our classes, which is strange because they are free, to students. But it's just getting, and so to pull off 2 a year, I'm sitting in our classroom here. We can hold 18 students, so we would like to start with 18. We know we're going to lose some through the course of the 9 weeks. But we've had a little trouble getting 18 students signed up each time. So we're still working on how do we get the word out to people, to the right people who are good candidates. So because SELF has 10 programs, well, those 9 other programs generate a lot of interest. People come through our doors looking for utility assistance or something like that. And they pick up information on Build Up Academy that might be appropriate for them or for a family member or for a friend of theirs. So that's really our biggest recruiting method, is through our other programs, and then other agencies throughout the county as well.
That's great.
And just a follow-up question, Greg, do you have to be a resident of Butler County to be enrolled in the program?
Yes, you do. Yes. Because we're a community action agency for Butler County, we're limited to Butler County. But there are similar programs. Claire mentioned the one at ACI. If somebody lives in Hamilton County, and they may not even be limited as far as where they live, but ACI and the Urban League offer a program called Construction Connections. I've had a chance to teach some of their classes as well. It uses the same curriculum, similar goals to that as well. And the CityLink Center down the West End is also offering a construction program now.
Great. And are you seeing still with the pandemic that there's a need in the construction industry since it's deemed a essential service?
Yeah, yes. That hasn't slowed down at all because construction was essential and there was no stay-at-home order that applied to construction workers. Plus, so many of us at home started thinking about home repairs. I think it's actually increased the construction work through the pandemic, strangely enough. So no, that hasn't dropped off at all that I'm aware of.
Wow, great. Anybody else have any more questions for Greg before we wrap up?
I just have a quick question. How many paid staff do you have, and have you had to let people go because of COVID or?
Yeah,
no?
Yes. I believe that the number here among our 10 programs is 23 paid staff. I'm aware of 4 that we laid off, but they've all been brought back. Well, some of our programs are seasonal, our utility assistants, and so the ones who expected to be brought back have been brought back at this point.
That's great.
Yeah, our summer season for our utility assistance program hasn't started yet, so a couple of those people aren't back in the office yet. And I have 4 staff that work in our construction side and Build Up Academy side, and we didn't have to lay anybody off. So.
Okay, I have one last question. Does anyone donate equipment to you at all? Do you get those types of donations?
Yes,
to help?
yes, we do. Building materials and equipment are great because a lot of our budget, our home repair budget, goes to materials and tools and things like that. So yeah, we love donations. We're moving into a new office that includes 7,000 square feet of warehouse. So we're in a better position now to actually take things. We were very limited on space before, so yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So Greg, this is Michelle Fullen. So if I come from the building products industry, I'm no longer in it, but I do know that there is always a great need for people that have some level of skill. I know they're desperate for people. Do you ever push people into like the cabinet making, fabrication type of businesses as well?
Yes, two of our graduates in one of our early classes, it may have been 2015, got hired immediately by a cabinet making company, which was great. They had more hours than they dreamed of. They had lots of overtime and it paid well. And yes, so that is one of the opportunities that we make our students aware of. We try to bring in, I don't think I mentioned this, but as our class reaches the end of its 9 weeks, we set aside several employer nights and we bring in potential employers, contractors, to come in and talk to our students, whether they're hiring or not. But if they are, then we've had cases where they actually walked out. Some of our students walked out of those evenings with a new job because somebody was willing to hire them on the spot.
Oh, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Greg, you've had some wonderful stories. I mean, thank you so much for being here with us today. Obviously I was on the call 2 weeks ago and today I learned even more. So as a member, this is just wonderful to get, to speak with you all one-on-one and hear real personal stories that you see daily. It's meaningful to us. So anyone else have any questions for Greg? I'm going to do our quick closing here. I know most of you all are current members, but maybe there are some people with us on Facebook watching. If you would like to become a member of Impact 100 and contribute to these transformational gifts that we grant to local nonprofits, you can become a member, a full member or a half member. And membership dues are required by December 31st of the previous year. So if you'd like to join for 2021, we just need your membership by December 31st. Many, many ways that you can pay. A lot of people like to do monthly payments so that they can budget for that 1,000 or hopefully 110% membership. And if you just like to learn more about Impact, you're not sure if you want to join yet, but see a little bit more about what we're about, here's a list of events that we have coming up. The ones highlighted in yellow are not our live events. We have these live events every Thursday, except for July 2nd at noon. Those are in the white text. The ones in yellow, like tomorrow, we have our DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Happy Hour, which actually will be taking on a little different topic than we thought, but should be very, very informative and actually fun to connect with other members. And then Claire, that's on this call, will be hosting our Step Up series. She's hosting a series of walks through different steps in the city and have partnered with some of our past grant recipients as well. So you get an exercise, you get a history lesson, and you get to build a connection with the local nonprofit. So those should be wonderful as well. And if anyone else on the call does not have any questions about Impact or for Greg, thank you all for coming. This was wonderful.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you. Learned
Great.
a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All the best.